tonight.
I have not read the Mueller report.
Waiting on the Mueller report. The White House prepares a counter report.
We must be up to this challenge.
And Beto O'Rourke makes his case, storming through a purple district in the heart of Trump country.
You know, these things should be called out.
Plus, our exclusive interview with Congressman Dan Crenshaw, defending the president for highlighting a Muslim congresswoman's remarks on 9/11.
What I want is for Christians to be thinking biblically.
And the evangelical response to artificial intelligence.
All this and more tonight on Faith Nation. The countdown to the highly anticipated release of the Mueller Report is on. Welcome to Faith Nation. I'm Jenna Browder.
And I'm Eric Phillips. John Jessup is on assignment tonight. Nearly 2 years after Special Counsel Robert Mueller began his investigation into the Trump campaign and Russian collusion, we're finally going to see what that report says.
Yeah, redacted version of his report expected out tomorrow. CBN White House correspondent Ben Kennedy joins us. And Ben, we're now hearing that the White House is also considering putting out its own report.
Yeah, Jen, Eric, you're right. The Trump legal team is now working to refine a counter report to Mueller's finding. It'll likely focus on obstruction of justice claims. Trump's lawyer Rudy Giuliani says he hopes to shave down their counter report to 50 pages, but there is no guarantee a counter report will even be released. A source close to the White House tells CBN News it all depends what the Mueller report says. Giuliani tweeted, "As we wait for the report, which will conclude no charges of collusion or obstruction, it's important this never happens again. A serious investigation will reveal a conspiracy to obstruct justice and election and the will of our people. We cannot rest until there is justice." The 22-month investigation revealed the Trump campaign did not collude with Russia, but Attorney General William Barr's 4-page summary also revealed Mueller did not reach a determination on obstruction. Today, President Trump tweeted calling the investigation a witch hunt and a total fraud. Trump recently said he's in the dark on what the nearly 400-page report contains.
I have not read the Mueller report. I haven't seen the Mueller report. As far as I'm concerned, I don't care about the Mueller report.
Now, the White House has said a broad briefing on the report, non-specific material, more the mechanics of the report that have had access to. President Trump is scheduled to be right here behind me at the White House on Thursday, and we are told his team is ready to comb through this massive report. Jenna, Eric.
All right, Ben Kennedy for us at the White House. Thank you, Ben. Meantime, the president called the Pope today to offer condolences on behalf of the American people after the Notre Dame Cathedral fire. The flames engulfing the Catholic symbol of France left the structure partially destroyed. Calling it a horrible fire, President Trump offered Pope Francis, quote, "the help of our great experts on renovation and construction." President Trump also wished Pope Francis and French President Emmanuel Macron a very happy Easter.
Asylum seekers in the United States could be held indefinitely. Attorney General Bill Barr's first immigration ruling will keep those who have a credible fear of being returned to their homeland from being released on bond. The Department of Justice decision to detain immigrants during deportation proceedings comes amid a push from the Trump administration to stem the tide of illegal immigration.
Well, the crisis at the border was front and center today as a Democratic presidential candidate from Texas stormed through Trump country.
CBN News correspondent Amber Strong is following the O'Rourke campaign and taking a look at Barr's latest directive. Head on.
So Beto O'Rourke is doing the whole meet and greet, or eat and greet, if you will. There wasn't a whole lot of eating, but a whole lot of energy here in Fredericksburg, Virginia, at this local establishment, Pimento. An interesting location for O'Rourke because it is owned by immigrants. The owner came here when he was 13 years old. And of course, O'Rourke laid heavily into immigration during the course of his about 40-minute speech. Afterwards, I had a chance to catch up with him and ask him a question about immigration, the Trump administration, and particularly this new directive that just came out from Attorney General Barr. Take a look.
It's disturbing. It's continuing anti-immigrant and anti-asylum seeker policies of this administration. It's making it harder on those who are already in the worst straits that we can imagine, leaving, in some cases, the most violent countries on the planet, having just finished a 2,000-mile journey. People who it has been demonstrated pose no threat to our communities, to our families, to ourselves. And we do this at great expense because we will pay to keep them jailed and detained indefinitely going forward.
So the city of Fredericksburg is an interesting stop because it's kind of in the middle of what we would consider Trump country. Stafford County, if you take a look at the map, is pretty red, went with President Trump in 2016. Spotsylvania County, which is right below us, also went with President Trump in 2016. But Fredericksburg, which is right there in the middle, went with Hillary Clinton. Now, I talked to voters here to ask them what was on their hearts and minds and what they wanted to hear from the congressman.
Things like voter rights, voter suppression, congressional gerrymandering, things like that. It doesn't matter what your policies are. If the people can't vote and can't make their voices heard, it doesn't matter.
Health care. Yes.
Why is that?
Because I'm a retiree, and I'm very concerned about my health care.
My colleague Abigail Robertson is on the road in Texas, Beto's home state, and she talked to voters there about what they think about O'Rourke.
He has a dubious background, his family, so I certainly wouldn't support him.
I think everybody has a shot. And if the people get out and do what they need to do and vote like they need to be, he might have a shot.
Now, O'Rourke is ending his Virginia swing with a stop in Alexandria. And of course, just over the river is Washington, D.C. and the White House, which would be the prized possession for O'Rourke. Amber Strong, CBN News in Fredericksburg, Virginia.
All right, thank you, Amber. And here now to talk all things political, our chief political analyst, David Brody, and Julia Manchester, a congressional reporter with The Hill. Both of you, thanks for joining us.
Absolutely. And David, we want to begin with you. So what do you think we're going to learn from this much anticipated report? And I emphasize much.
Yeah, all caps, for sure. Look, I think ultimately what we're going to see here is a lot of cringe-worthy moments for this administration tomorrow. What did Hope Hicks say? What did Don McGahn say? Dozens of hours that he spent with the special counsel. So I'm going to do a lot of Control F tomorrow. Control F as in find Hope. Control F McGahn. Control F collusion. That's what I'm going to be doing through 400 pages tomorrow. But ultimately, look, I think this thing is going to be like a Spanish novella on Univision. I got to tell you, I mean, this thing's going to have a lot of drama to it. The question then becomes, is it going to be over-redacted rather than just redacted? I think Democrats are going to use that word, hey, it's way over-redacted.
Yeah, Julia, speaking of redactions, Jerry Nadler, chair of the House Judiciary, he wants the full thing redacted. He's said to be considering issuing this full subpoena for the report. What are your thoughts on that? This is essentially, taking Bill Barr, the Attorney General, to court.
That's going to be very difficult because I think Bill Barr, what he's thinking about in terms of this is the national security implications of all of this. Bill Barr has been very clear to say that I will only redact information in terms of national security or if it's sensitive to private citizens. But the private citizen question is actually something I've been thinking about. Who is a private citizen? I think a lot of Democrats and critics of the administration are looking to Donald Trump Jr. and what information about Donald Trump Jr. will be in that report in regards to that infamous Trump Tower meeting in the summer of 2016. But ultimately, I was struck by a comment by former Congressman Trey Gowdy today, and he essentially said, this report's only going to further entrench both sides. I think both sides are going to look and cherry pick what works best for them and run with it. I don't think this is going to ultimately change the political environment in Washington. And I think, it's going to go the same way as it always has really been.
But with that in mind, who has more to lose here, the president or the Democrats?
It's really hard to say. I think from a public relations standpoint, both could have a lot to lose. Like, as David said, there could be a lot of damaging information, for the president in terms of, I guess, superficial information, how his image looks, et cetera. In terms of Democrats, if they're obsessing over this report ahead of a presidential election where polls show that most voters do not care about the report. Obviously, they want it to be released, but that's the final word they really want in it. They want to move on. It's going to make them seem obsessive and out of touch outside of Washington.
Yeah. On the topic of 2020, we saw Beto O'Rourke in Virginia today. Donald Trump out tweeting who he thinks would be the toughest or who he thinks will be the finalists in this Democratic primary. He thinks Bernie Sanders and Joe Biden. David, your thoughts on that?
Well, first, I like how Donald Trump morphs from President of the United States to Fox News contributor. You know, he's like a TV analyst, and he also giving advice for fires at Notre Dame. I mean, he's at like everything. Look, I think he's right in terms of the numbers. I mean, Biden and Sanders, but maybe it'd be nice if Joe Biden actually got in the race before we actually talk about him as a front runner. So sure, I think those are the safe bets for sure. The other part of it is that Buttigieg and O'Rourke and a lot of these folks, I mean, we don't know if they have staying power. They haven't been tested. Trump knows that Biden and Sanders have been through the wars before, and so that's kind of the smart money pick at this point.
Yeah, one thing is for sure, we all have a lot of light reading to do tomorrow.
No kidding.
All right, thanks very much.
Thank you both. Well, the firestorm over comments from a first-term Congresswoman's description of 9/11 refuses to die down. In an exclusive interview with CBN News, a Republican congressman, and retired Navy SEAL is defending the president and his own criticism of Representative Ilhan Omar's remarks.
These things should be called out. They have to be called out.
Texas Congressman Dan Crenshaw says it's wrong for fellow first-term Representative Ilhan Omar to downplay the Twin Tower attacks.
Some people did something.
Crenshaw is defending President Trump's post of an edited video splicing the Muslim Congresswoman's remarks with images of 9/11. That tweet is shining a spotlight on this nearly month-old speech before a Muslim advocacy group.
CARE was founded after 9/11 because they recognized that some people did something and that all of us were starting to lose access to our civil liberties.
Critics maintain her words have been taken out of context by the president and others.
They do this all the time to us, especially women of color. They do that. They take our words out of context because they're afraid, because we speak truth. We speak truth to power. Taking it out of context, this is just pure racist act by many of those, hateful acts by those, because she does speak truth.
Crenshaw is pushing back.
Nothing was taken out of context. That is a narrative being perpetuated, which is truly dishonest. And notice how nobody can ever explain how it was taken out of context, right? They'll say, well, she's explaining how CARE was founded. Well, first of all, she got that wrong. She said CARE was founded after 9/11. That's just not true. It was founded in 1994. Okay, so so that's not even true from the beginning.
The focus on this first-term representative's remarks is a lightning rod for Democratic candidates.
This is an incitement to violence.
Omar says she's experiencing an increase in death threats.
From what she said in her speech, she does not deserve the kind of vicious, hate-filled attacks that she's experiencing, threats on her life right now.
Speaker Nancy Pelosi seemed to take a veiled jab at the president and Omar's flippancy, stating, quote, "The memory of 9/11 is sacred ground, and any discussion of it must be done with reverence." Crenshaw says it's Omar who should be held accountable.
I don't think she supports any kind of terrorism or anything like that. But she did speak about it in a dismissive and disrespectful way. Okay, and I clearly pointed that out. I said, hey, that's unbelievable. Like, why would you talk about it this way? And if you are going to talk about it that way and you feel that you misspoke, then say that you misspoke. But she doesn't, right? She doubles down, right? Maybe because she's perfectly fine with the way that came off.
Crenshaw says that the president is in no way inciting violence and says that narrative is an attempt to silence critics. That's Abigail Robertson. With that exclusive, we will have more in the days to follow. All right, we'll hear now from more. Once again, David Brody, and joining the conversation, Clarence Page, a Pulitzer Prize-winning commentator and senior member of the Chicago Tribune editorial board. Clarence, thanks for being here.
Thank you. Glad to be here.
Yeah, first question to you. In your latest column, you say that both Donald Trump and Congresswoman Omar should go to the corner and take a timeout. They cannot seem to stop provoking each other.
Well, sometimes, in this business, you got to put your press hat aside and be a parent and say, you two, just stop all this, or I'm going to come back to that back seat. And my son always says, how are you going to drive the car from the back seat? But nevertheless, it's no less rational than what's going on right now. I mean, I think President Trump and Congresswoman Ilhan are both trying to provoke each other and provoke public discussion toward their direction.
Mm-hmm. Well, now you say that President Trump is trying to make America hate again, but
unfortunately.
But in all fairness, wasn't it Omar who started this?
Who started it? Now, that's the first thing kids say. He started it, blah, blah, blah.
Fair question.
Let's face it, the atmosphere in Washington right now is very, shall we say, well, what, pugilistic? I mean, people are just kind of itching for a fight. I didn't directly say that President Trump is trying to make America hate again, but he acts like it. He sends that kind of a message that says, hey, it's okay to hate somebody like this who doesn't agree with you about Middle East policy, it doesn't agree with you about the 9/11, the way things are going. I think Congresswoman Ilhan spoke too flippantly about 9/11. She knows the gravity of that occasion. She knows that it shook Americans up in many ways, regardless of your political leaning. And I think a certain amount of reverence is due to that. Call me politically correct, but I think it's good manners. I think it's good reverence to the situation. Unfortunately, we've gotten into a presidential election campaign year. It's coming up fast, and so everybody wants to posture with one position or another. So this has to play out.
Yeah. David, critics and supporters of President Trump will say this kind of behavior is beneath the office of the president. What do you say to that? They don't think he should be rolling around in the mud.
Right, and it really isn't so much what I say, it's what he says, and he says he couldn't give a riff. I mean, he couldn't care less, and really a lot of folks would say that's a problem, clearly, but he's a fighter. We've heard this before. He's from New York. This is the way he does it, right? I mean, you're going to punch him, he's going to punch you 2 times as hard. And I got to tell you, what was interesting to me, this is the line he said the other day about Ilhan Omar. He said this: she's got a way about her that's very, very bad, I think, for our country. And that was a bit disconcerting to me when I heard that. I wanted to kind of unpack that. What did that mean exactly? And what I thought, there's a lot to unpack in that statement, but I think overall it's about a values argument. Donald Trump sees a traditional 1950s, if you want to call it, back in the day type value system in America. She represents something far different. I think it's threatening to him. I think it's threatening to a lot of folks in this country. And I think that is the value argument between the two sides.
Well, we don't want to end the conversation without talking about Nancy Pelosi. How do you think she is handling this situation?
As well as anybody can who's got a whole house full of kids who are going crazy. It's not just Congresswoman Ilhan. It's the radical left, whatever you want to call them right now. Just like John Boehner was literally run out of the House by the conservative wing of his caucus. Same thing is happening with Nancy Pelosi, but she's not running. She's handling them like a good house mother would, or she would say a mother of 5 does, because she's got to keep the energy that the left is bringing to the party right now, while at the same time not frightening away the swing voters that they have to have in order to beat Trump, in order to win the House back and the Senate. So she's handling it as well as she can. Fortunately for her, she knows it's early in the campaign year. A lot of this will all be forgotten by the end of summer, for that matter. And things really start to heat up. But for right now, she's been able to keep the peace with AOC and Ilhan and the others on the left, while at the same time taking care of the folks in the middle.
Not a very easy thing to do.
A delicate dance, no joke. All right, Clarence Page.
She asked for it, didn't she?
Yeah, yes, she did. Clarence Page, David Brody, thank you.
Thanks so much.
Thank you.
Still ahead, artificial intelligence is starting to become a permanent part of our daily lives. How evangelicals are responding. Artificial intelligence is no longer just the future. AI is a growing reality and can be found almost really anywhere. Through the use of algorithms, machines learn to perform tasks that previously only humans could complete.
Yeah, and as this tech speeds up, one big question is, how should Christians respond? And that is a question that one group is tackling head on.
Never fear while Rosie's here.
It wasn't that long ago that Rosie the robot maid seemed entertaining and completely unrealistic.
Hi, Sophia.
Hello, Jimmy.
Now, Sophia the human-like robot is making the rounds on television, including The Tonight Show. Robot vacuums are cleaning our houses, while personal assistants like Alexa answer our questions and even do our shopping.
You have 4 items on your shopping list.
And the military uses this tech for research and to maneuver on the battlefield. All of this thanks to artificial intelligence, or AI.
The frog in the boiling water metaphor suggests that it's all happening so slowly you don't notice, whereas in fact this is happening quickly, and people are noticing, but they don't know how to deal with it. Conversely, our failure to develop a set of ethical and legal controls could increase the odds that the pot boils over.
That's why these church leaders met recently in Washington to talk about how evangelicals should respond to the fast-paced advances in artificial intelligence.
We have to be the people who are able to, as the scripture tells us, discern the times around us. If we are not wrestling with what are the moral implications of what we're facing, then the world will provide those answers in ways that are not conducive to the Christian gospel.
So the Southern Baptist Ethics and Religious Liberty Commission took on the job of developing this statement of principles concerning AI. 12 articles covering everything from sexuality to medicine to war. Jason Thacker spearheaded the effort.
What I want is for Christians to be thinking biblically. What is privacy? What is data? What should we be sharing? What's wisdom look like?
A cornerstone premise of the statement is that humans, not machines, were created in the image of God. One passage reads, "We deny that any part of creation, including any form of technology, should ever be used to usurp the dominion entrusted solely to humanity by God." The document emphasizes that while the ability to create is a God-given gift, humans are accountable to God for technology they create and what it does.
Oftentimes people talk about this in terms of the impact on the political process or military decisions, and those are real concerns, but this could actually have much broader impacts.
Especially for Christians trying to balance chapter and verse with science and technology.
Definitely a balancing act there. Now, church leaders say the next step is infusing information on how to respond to artificial intelligence into forums like Sunday school, small groups, and discipleship classes.
Making a fashion statement coming up. Meet the college students behind these dresses and how they're promoting life and that movement. Students at an Ohio Christian college hope to send a pro-life message with a new fashion trend, combining baby clothes with their own.
Very interesting, and as Paul Strands reports, it produces a startling visual statement of the human cost of abortion.
If you really know what you stand for, you could say or write a statement of beliefs. And if you like to dress up well, you like to make a fashion statement. What if you could do both statements at once and communicate your feelings about abortion when you get all dressed up? That's what's happening with some young ladies here at Ohio's Cedarville University, and they hope what they're doing spreads.
We hope that high school girls, even college women such as ourselves, will at their formal this year or any other opportunity they have to be seen with a onesie or other baby clothes pinned to them, to connect the humanity of the child that belongs inside of that clothing to their humanity.
They call this pro-life innovation a message dress.
When you see baby clothes, you think of sweet things and lovely things, and the children who should be wearing them.
This is the first anybody's ever thought of doing something like this.
It simply takes adding baby clothes to a dress.
The pro-life movement didn't have such a creative idea in place before that people can come around and take part in and join in with themselves. And I want all pro-life advocates who are young women to feel comfortable that they can take part in this initiative.
Stephanie Schlabach was a psychology major, and Anna Edwards is now. Both have studied the mental wounds many women carry from an abortion.
They have nightmares, they get very depressed.
And for women who even are okay with abortions, they still have to accept that they had something that they then lost, no matter what they believe that something is. Of course, we believe that it's their children and thus you shouldn't kill them. But so it's extremely harmful for women.
They have suicidal thoughts and behaviors in some cases, especially if it's a late-term abortion, because that is, they've started developing that bond, even without knowing it, with their child. And when they just force that child out of them and it's no longer living, that does cause a lot of psychological damage.
The horror of abortion is so often unseen. Well, these folks with their message dresses are hoping to make it a little more visible. Those that are being killed and what's really being lost through abortion. Paul Strand, CBN News, reporting from Cedarville University.
And that's going to do it for Faith Nation tonight.
Have a great evening.